I think it's time to blow this scene. Get everybody and their stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam. Let's jam.
Howdy, partners. We got a bounty coming for ya. He's been wanted for stealing space drugs, and he has a horrible past that you're gonna learn about. Oh, and there's a doggy.
And a cute kid.
And a cute kid.
And a sexy femme fatale.
And a tough-as-nails former cop with a heart of gold.
Now, straight up, though, this is the greatest opening to a TV show.
This
maybe sans like Cheers.
Yeah.
Like, this is the greatest song ever for an opening theme to a TV show.
With the Saul Bass graphics, like, exploding all around you, just guns and spaceships and karate and sexy ladies.
This sax right here. Oh, it's coming up in just a second. Hold on, wait for it. Because we have to play the whole thing.
Yeah.
They have to hear the whole thing. What? Oh, that's so good.
Oh, am I 16 years old again in my parents' rec room about to get my mind blown? That's what that song is.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Wizard and the Bruiser. I'm your snooty Bruiser, Holden McNeely. That's right. Bruiser got rich. Bruiser got a little snooty. He drinks espressos before he beats the shit out of the guy.
And I'm your hard-time wizard, sucking dick for spells.
Oh, a hard-edged wizard. It's like a noir wizard. A noir wizard. Welcome to the Cowboy Bebop episode of Wizard and the Bruiser. You want it. We gave it to you.
You wanted it a lot.
Yes, actually.
You asked for it repeatedly in the fan group.
Many people want it a lot, and I promise we will also do an episode on Power Rangers. Just stop it.
We'll wait for the sequel to the remake of the movie after the remake is going to be very successful because it looks so good.
We get it. You loved the Power Rangers when you were a kid. Anywho, Cowboy Bebop's the show we're here to talk about today. And my God, Jake, I had such a blast. Just going back in time, enjoying the shit out of this show. I'm rewatching it now, of course, had to, and just absolutely falling in love with it all over again. And, you said you had kind of a similar experience as of late.
We've done a couple episodes at this point, and I don't think a single topic just sent me into a weird space, quiet head zone, like rewatching Cowboy Bebop for the first time in, over 10 years.
Oh, my God.
Because this was the gateway drug for American anime nerds in the early 2000s. This was what kind of elevated what we kind of know as otaku culture in America right now.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being 16 years old and watching this every week, because Adult Swim was this exciting new programming block. And
funny you should mention it. It became the first anime to be broadcast on Adult Swim in 2001, and it was so successful that they repeatedly aired the 26-episode series over and over again for 4 years.
I probably watched it the whole time because what I wanted to communicate in this episode is that watching Cowboy Bebop for the first time is an exciting experience because the series was capable of anything. From episode to episode, you would not know what is actually going to happen this week, and 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, it would leave you satisfied and breathless and hyped as fuck.
Totally, completely surprised. I mean, and to kick it off with that first episode, too, where you have this big explosive opening, and then most of the episode is quite minimalist. There's not a lot of music. There's not a lot. It's like this slow kind of following around the city kind of series of scenes. And then the moment you're kind of settled into all that, boom, this fucking sick jazz, sick-ass jazz beat comes in. This amazing fight sequence like you've never seen a fight sequence before in an anime, largely due to its soundtrack and everything. It was so cool to see it again and be like, no, this wasn't some shit I was into, because it had all the trappings of like something that you would be into back then. This is like some legit ass, kind of similar to my still ongoing like pouring back into Neon Genesis Evangelion that I've been doing recently. I mean, it holds up like a motherfucker. And you all asked for this episode because it's because like so many other people, you feel like it's one of the greatest animes of all time, and I do not think you are wrong for a second.
A lot of times we go back to something that we remember from our childhoods with this kind of like, we take the nostalgia glasses off and we're like, this was really lame, and this was just some like edgelord dark shit that we thought was cool. But that was the most humbling thing, was rewatching this and over again going, holy shit, Cowboy Bebop is really that good.
Now, I think it really comes down to the perfect sort of mixing of elements. There's like a couple things going on here, actually, too, because I want to also say that even upon hearing that opening theme for the first time, seeing that opening sequence for the first time, the whole thing, even just, it was so there, the look of everything, the design of all of the spacecraft, everything, it was all so there. It felt immediately like one of those things I had been watching for years already. And I think that was really what drove home to me for me when I sat down to rewatch it recently. Was that I remember getting that feeling because I watched it in college. Like, it all happened for me in college with the comic book thing and with the anime. I met some really cool friends that got me into some really cool shit, and I remember them kind of sitting me down and or getting tossed the first DVD set or whatever for Cowboy Bebop Session 1 or what have you, and just being completely blown away and having that feeling. And I do think it is a lot of to do with the soundtrack, and it was such a wonderful thing to hear that Watanabe. Is that, yes, Watanabe.
Shinichiro Watanabe.
Who is the brain lord, is what I would like to refer to him as, of Cowboy Bebop. And we'll get into some of the dirty details in just a little bit. But he is obsessed with music and believes that music is the universal language. And finding out about
Looks like that dumb nerd never heard of Esperanto. What an idiot. A fool.
And that really, I think, is why this show and his sensibility with music, and again, we'll get into Yoko Kanno, but her music stylings really drove home the like, oh my God, have I not? I saw this before, right? I've been watching this for years, right?
Well, that's a huge part of this show that makes it kind of the gateway drug for a lot of anime fans, is that you don't need to know a lot. You don't need to know anything about Japanese culture to watch this. It's not this weird foreign thing where there's like schoolgirls and weird holidays and festivals and, cities that are unrecognizable. It's, even the street signs are in English in this show.
Yes, they've purposely done to allow for the communication of the show more easily to other countries. And
so there's very little hurdles, especially because the dub was so well done. Like, it's incredibly easy to get into. None of that weird, like, what are they wearing? What's happening? Why are the girls all bad? Just using some common anime criticism.
I'm immediately thinking of the opening to Neon Genesis Evangelion, which I love, but it is like this super like J-pop sounding song with like the lyrics are like the cruel angel's thesis bleeds. I think that's like the name of the song, but it's hilarious. Like, I laughed my ass off the first time I saw it, but I think I needed a Cowboy Bebop under my belt before I could get to something like Neon Genesis Evangelion.
It's actually called A Cruel Angel's Thesis. That is the name.
A Cruel Angel's Thesis, and it's this like super K-pop sounding song. It's very bizarre and kind of less tangible. Whereas Cowboy Bebop is like immediately like, here, jazz music, right? Rock and roll. I mean, you've got the episodes are named after song titles and musical stylings. It definitely
each episode was called a session.
Yes, each episode's called a. I mean, it bleeds cool.
Yes,
like, the whole thing bleeds cool. And finding out more about let's talk about him, Spike Spiegel, right?
Spiegel.
Spiegel?
Spike Spiegel. Spike Spiegel.
He talks like that. What is he? His design was made with the intent of just straight up cool. Like that's what they wanted.
To even break apart all the reasons why Spike Spiegel is cool is to like describe the history of coolness. the director, creator, head Shinichiro Watanabe, talks about how the first thing that emerged fully formed in his head was the idea of Spike as this ultimate cool character.
And you have to understand, too, that he started with the characters, and that really shines in the show. The characters and their arcs all really shine wonderfully in the show. He you know, the first thing he came up with was Spike and the other characters before even the larger plot lines and everything. And it was designed based on the main character of a show called Tantei Monogatari, which translates to detective story.
Did you look up clips of this?
No, but he looks hilarious.
It's literally Spike Spiegel on the screen.
Oh, really?
He's just
The
this
guy
groovy
looks
guy
really
with
funny.
a shock of hair. He has that, like, he's kind of lanky, so whenever he kung fu fights, it has that kind of limb-throwy Spike Spiegel energy about
Gotcha.
him. Constantly smoking. Spike is also kind of the classic noir hero archetype because what makes a noir hero is this weird, like, he's sympathetic but understands how the world works.
Yes.
So, like, his heart bleeds for, you know, these poor souls in the underworld that he inevitably comes across in every episode. If anything, another thing that Cowboy Bebop has in common with noir stories is that it's almost more about the criminals in each episode. It's more about the bounties who are kind of taking, you know, they're the ones who are in danger. They're the ones who are kind of taking on these huge, giant problems. And Spike's kind of just this passive kind of guy who's just in it for money.
Yeah, a lot of times it's going to be some kind of... I was just watching the one with the boy killer.
Sympathy for the Devil.
Sympathy for the Devil, actually, just earlier. And a lot of episodes are like this where it sort of just starts off like, oh, it's a bad guy. Oh, that's a clever idea. A little boy bad guy. Cool. But then you find out his whole backstory, what his whole deal is, and you become very sympathetic for him so that by the end, when the good guy gets the bad guy, you're sort of feeling actually like really bad about it.
Another thing about Spike Spiegel is he dresses really, you know, he dresses kind of goofy. Like his physical proportions are weird with the big feet.
He's hunched over. Yeah. He was designed by artist Kawamoto-san. He was see, I'm doing it. I'm getting there. Preparing for my trip to Tokyo in 2018. He designed him purposely to look uncool. Sort of hunched over, big feet, this and that, so that when he kicks into action, he starts doing high flying, badass, like, you know, fighting
Jeet
techniques. Jeet Kune Do. He's got the, you know, the force of the dragon or whatever. I don't know. I'm just making it up out of my butt right now.
It sounded great.
He looks extra cool, as the character designer described.
Because that's what every nerd wants to be. They don't want to be the bro. They don't want to be the jock. They want to be the fucking goofy cool guy that when push comes to shove knows how to kick a guy's face off.
I want to turn into a big monkey when I get mad. No. Ooh, I wanted that in high school. It's like Jennifer didn't want to kiss me, and then I was like, yeah, but I'll beat all the boys up, and I turn into a big, hairy, mean monkey called Gnarlsboro. And I'll go, welcome to Gnarlsboro County, brother. And then I'll punch a bunch of dudes, and I'll eat a big banana. Jake?
Slightly less cool than Spike Spiegel.
I was watching more Dragon Ball back in the day. That's the problem. I was watching Dragon Ball instead of Cowboy Bebop.
But he has a cool spaceship with a laser cannon. He knows how to use nunchucks. He, like, is impossible with a handgun. He has a fake cybernetic eye. He is literally a composite of all the things that nerds think is cool in a character. And it's that late 90s kind of troubled past, gentle exterior kind of Trigun vibe that was very popular at the time.
Also, one thing about
He'll save the cat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he'll totes save the cat, even though he's kind of, but he'll act all cool about it. He'll give the cat a bunch of weed afterwards.
He'll give the cat a bunch of weed. He chain smokes, but never has a cough. Always cool. And he may or may not have murdered several Chinese gangsters in a previous life,
or may not have murdered several Chinese gangsters.
Killed a lot of Chinese gangsters.
Maybe possibly killed several Chinese
Hands
gangsters.
stained with blood.
Allegedly.
No, this is very, very...
If flashbacks are to be believed. He also, that cybernetic eye, too, they wanted to give all the characters flaws. And that was, originally they wanted to give him an eye patch, but I think Bandai was the one who said no. Which, by the way, interesting thing about that, the show was originally signed on by Bandai's toy company, okay? So it was created by Sunrise.
Sunrise, the animation company that we previously covered in our Gundam episode.
Yep.
And if you're talking powerhouse money-making Japanese companies, the partnership of Sunrise and Bandai is an animation and toy empire that's made billions of dollars together.
Billions and fucking billions of dollars.
So
you'll never see that money.
It's the 90s. Animes are big. Toys are big. The internet is but a fleeting new wave of entertainment. Right now, there is like just so, we talk about the golden age of TV. This was the golden age of anime. Like, if you were competent, you could get something done, and there was an audience for it.
And Bandai's toy division signed on as the sponsor, and they literally quoted, they said, so long as there's a spaceship in it, you can do whatever you want. Because they just wanted to sell spaceship toys. Now,
and Watanabe was like, okay, I got spaceships, but hear me out. What about gay relationships and bloody violence
and jazz, funk, rock and roll, and blues all mixed together? How does that sound? Can you sell that?
Chain smoking and Desperado references.
And then Bandai was like, oh, I think I see a giant life-size Gundam behind you. And then Watanabe turned around, and then they went, psych, and then ran away, backed out of the deal. Bandai Vision.
And Watanabe was like, no, wait, I didn't even describe the episode where a corgi did mushrooms.
Mushroom Samba, dude. I can't wait to rewatch that episode, by the way. I
watched it on the way here. It's still great.
Oh, I can't wait to see that one. That's like definitely one of the highlights. I feel like we can definitely talk about some of the other highlight episodes in this wonderful series. It's only 26 episodes long, by the way. I think that's like an important thing to get across, which I love. We'll get there in a second. Hold on. So Bandai Visual steps in. That show almost did not happen until Bandai Visual stepped in to sponsor it. I guess that they liked enough of what they saw. Watanabe jokingly said he would be like in the grocery store, like bagging groceries, if it wasn't for Bandai Visual stepping in to save the show. So and he really rallied the staff, saying that this show would be something memorable up to 3 decades later, which I just love that reading that in my research, because it so is. It's so huge.
This was traditional animation with tons of spaceship and vehicle designs. Detailed fight sequences, lots of explosions. Like, this must have been, as someone that like even vaguely understands how drawing and animation works, you can tell just how much of a pain in the ass this was to make.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Just that opening sequence alone has so much going on visually. Well, Sunrise, too, was always known for their incredible visuals.
Are you talking about how fans will always refer to it as Sunrise Smooth?
That's right, Jake. Sunrise Smooth hitting you early in the morning. We've got bad weather outside. There's some traffic going on. There's multiple wrecks. Many families have died.
But you just sit back and relax as we play Gundam 08th MS Team Sunrise Smooth.
Yakima! I don't know. I'm just making it up.
Six Xeon! It's a Gundam! No!
So, yeah, Sunrise was the company that put it all together. You might know them for Gundam. You might know them for a little-known show called Tiger and Bunny. You might know them for a show called Cross-Ange Rondo of Angel and Dragon. I just tried to find the silliest.
I do not know that
Yeah,
one.
I just looked for this.
Rondo!
What does Rondo mean? Because there's Rondo of Blood is a popular Castlevania
I think
title.
it's like an obscure music term.
Cross-Ange Rondo of Angel and Dragon. Some listener, please chime in on the Facebook page who has watched that show and give us a full report on
You
whether
might as
or
well
not
just
it's
said Aria Flippity Bibble.
And also, the whole series is credited as being created by Hajime Yatate. And if you ever see that, it's a pseudonym for the collective contributions of the animation staff. That's so odd in Japan. They had that. They also had that with video games, where the designers would have pseudonyms and never go under their actual name. And there's something about like the whole versus the singular person.
What's the fake director name if you're like ashamed of what you did?
No, I can't. I can't.
Well, it's the opposite of that. Instead of shame, you're just so proud of what everyone did that you don't want any one person
to take the credit.
Unfortunately, though, when it finally broadcast, it was severely censored due to, which, looking back on it, I kind of agree, a lot of violence.
6 p.m. time slot.
A lot of people getting shot in the head in this movie, in this thing.
Yeah, they definitely shoot a child boy in the head in the episode I just saw, and he's just smiling with a bullet hole in the middle of his forehead.
A lot of blood,
a
lot of it almost sneaks up on you just how violent this show is, especially for having aired on basic cable. But Japan was especially sensitive at the time because there was a rash of like youth violence, and the suspects would always say, "Well, I saw it in an anime." Kind of like I remember back in the 90s, people were mad at Beavis and Butthead because someone lit their trailer on fire and was like, "I don't know, the MTV boys said it would be funny." I live in a trailer.
America
this is how
real.
I talk.
That's not
I
how
am
they
8
talk.
years old.
No, they don't say that. So, yeah, it aired in 98, but they only aired like a handful of episodes. They didn't even air the whole thing, even though the whole thing was made at that point.
Yeah.
And then it finally got its actual due the next year in 99. They showed all 26 episodes on Wow Wow.
Oh, the normal name for a satellite channel.
Yeah, Wow Wow.
Yeah. I love turning on my TV and just tuning the old box to Wow Wow.
Popping over to Wow Wow and getting a little Wow Wow action. So yeah, and and also if you remember their big tagline for their network was "Wow Wow TV shows." So it was always Wow Wow Jimmy would get on. Wow Wow, we got 14 more hours of TV shows.
It is amazing you spend all your money as a Japanese TV presenter on cocaine and bugs.
When I get lost in the grocery store, I get scared. Wow, wow. 14 to 16 more hours of shopping-themed television shows.
And now a message from Hokkaido Dairy Concern.
Wow, wow. Be careful with your dairy. Be concerned about it. I'm Wow Wow Jimmy.
This entire family sitting in their living room in Japan being like, "We do not have any idea what this man is saying."
Up next, Cowboy Bebop. I'm Jimmy Mistakes on Wow Wow. Wow Wow Jimmy.
Is this the new spin-off podcast on Cave Comedy Radio?
Why did we hire him? Wow, it's Jimmy. I've left my rubber pants at home. Clean up on aisle 4.
What do you mean the mics are already off? How is this still broadcasting?
Wow. I got the voice of a loudspeaker. But back to educational infotainment.
Infotainment.
That's what this show is.
If we can't settle for tainment, we'll at least info.
Yes, exactly. But back to the characters of Cowboy Bebop. Jet Black was Spike's foil. He was a cool motherfucker. He was designed as Spike's opposite. He'd always be wearing like casual clothes when Spike was all kind of semi-dressed up.
Which in anime terms is a sleeveless onesie.
Yes, exactly. Faye Valentine, a self-proclaimed gypsy. She has kind of an interesting arc where really she just doesn't trust anybody, and she's kind of stone cold like Spike is, but becomes more emotionally connected to the guys.
She fits that dame archetype where, like, sure, allegiances are never quite clear. She's always looking out for herself. I think she's like a well-made character, very sympathetic at times, but like without being a damsel in distress. And she's very clearly based on the character of Fujiko Mine from Lupin the Third. A lot of, actually, the core trio.
Glad you brought up Lupin the Third.
I mean, which is worth its own episode, but needless to say, if you've ever watched Lupin the Third, the trio of Jigen, the hard-nosed, bearded pistol marksman, Lupin, the seemingly casual but deeply serious thief, and Fujiko, the damsel who's out after her own interests and willing to use her sensuality to get what she wants, very clearly mirror the Jet, Spike, and Faye. I keep wanting to say May Valentine. But
Faye Valentine
Right.
is such a good name for like the femme fatale, you know?
It also helps that Lupin the Third famously had a very bump and jazz soundtrack. So like the
Yes.
similarities are very, very.
Well, he was obviously heavily inspired by the show. It was a show that was based on a manga series of the same name dating all the way back to 67.
Yeah, man.
It's very old. It's about Lupin the Third is the world's #1 thief. And I think especially the bump and jazz soundtrack, also the fact that he was very like fun-loving but also smart. And I think that we haven't even touched on the fact that this show, as I believe Watanabe
Watanabe? Whatever you want.
Watanabe said that it was 80% drama, action, 20% comedy. There's a lot of comedic elements in the show. Definitely Ed, the hacker kid, is the comic relief. I remember when I first saw the show, I did kind of not like Ed. It was like the one
That's a
thing.
common thing.
It's a little ridiculous. It's the hacker girl that works for the guys and Faye, and is sort of
the wild card.
The wild card, originally designed to be a boy, but then they changed it to a girl to be to kind of even out the gender on the ship. And if you want to see the original design for Ed as the boy, it is the kid who's one of the two kids that's stealing the dirty magazine in session 5. That is the original design they had for Ed until they changed it. And then Ein, which is the Pembroke Welsh corgi that has superhuman intelligence.
Impeccably animated corgi.
Yes, wonderfully animated corgi. Love the corgi. Not a weak point at all. Give me corgi or give me death. Jake Young, agree or disagree?
I agree. The Data Dog is good.
There you go.
It's a pretty good looking little corgi.
Right?
Yeah, I looked it up. It's a real cute little cartoon pup.
He comes in a few episodes, or second episode. Yeah, he comes in second episode, I believe. Into the fray. But yeah, all very based off of Lupin the Third. And by the way, I love the pseudonym of the creator of Lupin the Third. It is Monkey Punch.
Yep.
Which is a great pseudonym for a comic book writer. Fantastic stuff.
If you guys bother us for a Lupin the Third episode, we'll do it. It's only 40 years of history. We'll knock it out.
I looked
50,
I was like,
whatever.
I started researching Lupin the Third. I was like, whoa, like my brain just.
You want to talk Castle of Cagliostro? We'll do Cagliostro.
Just like I can't even believe it. Like manga. How old does manga go back to?
I mean, if American comic books date back to like the 20s,
true that,
then eventually some idiot's going to give Japan the printing press.
There you
Big
go.
Mistake.
Done.
Idiots.
Over. Stupids. So yeah. And another thing I really wanted to highlight was that Watanabe-san creatively approached the project. He wanted to make each episode feel like its own movie. And I think that is so true. He's so successful in making that happen. Also, before they even really got into developing each episode, he knew the basic ending that was going to happen with Vicious and everything. A lot of people note that is one of the greatest, or at least such a great, satisfying ending to a series. The other creators...
Sticks the landing. That's one of the big deals, is that unlike, say, Battlestar Galactica or Lost or any of our dumb American shows made by infidels...
Excluding 6 Feet Under, finale rules.
Yeah, but how many churches blow up in that one?
It's true. No churches blow up in that one. They crush it. His whole underlying or overarching arc. That was a bit repetitive of his situation with Vicious, the antagonist of the show. That you only get, and I love the structure of that. And I know other shows have emulated that a little bit, but as opposed to a lot of shows being other shows where it's very serial, you might get like one or two one-off standalone episodes. But everything else is about pushing the plot forward. This is like the other version of that, where most episodes are one-off situations, but every now and again you get a taste of this underlying plot between Spike and Vicious, and the love that they shared, and the betrayal. What's the name of his love interest?
Julia,
I believe, and that whole thing, and the fact.
Marcus, double check Spike Spiegel girlfriend.
And I think that's such a smart way to do it, because you're already enjoying the show, but then every now and again you get an episode where they give you another taste of that arc, right? Yeah. And when that happens, you get all excited. You're like, oh, awesome, this is one of the episodes that's going to teach me more about this bigger plot.
Also because you care about these characters.
Yeah.
Even with the caveat that these are all very tropey archetypes, you've seen them go through all these situations. You've seen them interact with each other and care for one another, and the show ends, instead of the classic tagline, "See you, Space Cowboy," it ends with "You're gonna carry that weight," which is a reference to the fact that that was one of the last songs ever recorded by the Beatles, another foursome that we grew to love that eventually had to go their separate ways.
And even though they were broken up by Yoko...
Oh! shit!
A Yoko that kept this show together. Yoko Kanno, the composer.
Perfect segue!
Whoa,
I don't believe it!
He did it. He did it. Did it. He did it. Wow.
Hello, President Trump, cancel the bombs. I repeat, cancel the bombs. He did it!
Who knew he had all that power? Yoko Kanno. I got a little crush going from doing this research. I had no idea that the creator of all of that music was this Japanese woman that is like really cute
You can
and
say, yeah, she's a cutie.
awesome and but badass. Like first of all, just look up the Seatbelts live in Tokyo and just see how fucking cool this chick is. She's wearing this like red leather trench coat. This whole big band is surrounding them. They're rocking Tank, ripping Tank open. This guy gets up and where they do that little sax part, he does like a way longer sax solo that just crushes, and she's just dancing and just soaking it in. And then after all that, they play some more jazz tunes from Cowboy Bebop, and then she gets up there and she does just like solo piano, just gorgeous solo piano work. She is the mastermind behind all of that incredible music, which is really something fantastic because like we said, it mixed together all of these different musical styles. You really think it's a completely different set of bands creating this music. And there was one band, and that band was called the Seatbelts. And you want to know why they're called the Seatbelts? Because they talked about how they were jamming so hard they had to wear seatbelts so they didn't hurt themselves. How fucking cool is that shit? I loved learning that.
I mean, it's way better than the cowmen.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just riding on horses.
We're manning so many cows.
Or, the only way we'll hurt ourselves is if we slip on a cow poo.
It's a fine band. I'm just saying name-wise.
We're calling ourselves the
Seatbelts 2 parentheses. Come at me, Yoko.
I got it. The crash test dummies. Yeah, because we're jamming so hard that we'll hit or we'll hurt ourselves in the crash. In the thing. There is a band. Nah, I do have a warm place. Maybe we'll do an episode on the crash test dummies. Actually, now that I think about it, every nerd listened to that album, I think, back in the 90s, right?
Or at the very least, the Weird Al Yankovic parody of it.
Yes. Oh, I loved that. Okay, but we'll get to a Weird Al Yankovic.
Watanabe and Anno talk about how they collaborated between each other, where she would write a song, and that would inspire Watanabe to create a scene, which would then counter-inspire her to write a different song. And she is very much credited as having a lot of influence on the direction of the series.
Yep. Some songs in the second half of the series, Watanabe says, we didn't even ask her for those songs. She just made them and brought them to us. He described it as a game of catch between the two of us in developing the music and creating the TV series Cowboy Bebop. And really, the way Yoko works in a very different way than a lot of composers. She actually started making music before seeing anything from the show. A lot of which really informs how inherent the music is to the show. She was creating music and bringing in music like as they were creating it before they created a lot of stuff. And I think that and it's so inherent, it's so connected to the music. You really couldn't imagine the show happening without the music.
Always, a lot of the time, most episodes would have a big chase sequence with some jammin' Anno music blaring in the background, kind of keeping up the pace. One piece of music that, like, honest to God, if I'm like way too high and like couch locked, it fucks me up. It's the music from Pierre Le Fou, where they're in like the dark government lab where it's just like that like that's part of my soul.
Let's just talk about Pierre Le Fou, right?
Pierre Le Fou.
For a second. I must have watched that. Speaking of getting high and watching a thing, I must have got high and watched that like a gazillion times, that particular episode back in college. I love that. Like, that episode is perfect to me.
A lot of people say it was inspired by Batman the Animated Series because there's a lot of shot compositions that are very similar, especially the roller coaster sequence. Yeah. There's a very similar thing going on. The presentation of this bizarre, like cartoonish character, and then you
Yes.
discover their dark backstory.
So it's this big round
Penguin Joker man.
Yeah, Penguin Joker guy. He like laughs a lot, and he acts like a child. And you find out why later in the episode. But at first, he's just sort of unstoppable, and he really is one of the characters, one of the villains in the show that is like the most dangerous. I feel like that is the most deadly. And Spike has to go in and try to take him down, and almost meets his end. And then you find out his whole backstory was he was like a government test subject, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of when that music comes in and everything. And a lot of it takes part in a theme park. Almost feels a little like the Joker, Alan Moore, a little bit.
Very much so. Also, another reason why I love that episode is some episodes were more quiet, some episodes were more character based, but they had these like this toy box of cool shit, and one of their coolest cool shit was badass high energy Spike Spiegel fight sequences.
Yeah.
And this whole episode is like basically an excuse for Spike Spiegel to do every cool thing he can possibly do to stay alive.
Yeah.
Because the big bad is this, unkillable nightmare monster with the power to fly and a top hat and cane.
It's so good. It's so good. That episode, if you're gonna, I would say like watch like the first episode. If you're gonna breeze, just check out a couple. The first episode, that, and like Mushroom Samba, and like maybe, and maybe episode, I think it's 5, which is the first kind of big vicious episode. Would be good.
There's also, I also really liked, I really liked Toys in the Attic, which was their big Alien homage.
Awesome. A lot of homages to known film, especially American Hollywood films.
Mushroom Samba is one we talk about a lot because it's kind of it stands out in terms of setting and tone. It's blaxploitation spaghetti western drug trip. Like, that's incredible.
And so well, by the way, we're talking, a lot of things like to throw a bunch of things together and see what happens, right? But Cowboy Bebop, what puts that above everything else is it's like a DJ, a really good DJ mixing all that together. It's like a remix that just feels right. It feels good, I mean, it's perfectly melded. The lines are smoothed out. They all fit together in a way. And I think, again, going back to that, wow, I feel like I've seen this before. I feel like I've been watching this show for years. I think that is why, because they'll have like 3 genres in there and 3 character archetypes that and have been watching for years. But then they're just adding in these strange other more exotic elements that make it fresh and new and feel just way cool.
Some of the recurring elements that I kind of want to touch on because they kind of show up then and again is sympathetic criminals, hard luck stories, people taking big chances, trying to, improve their station in life or escape from some kind of unfortunate situation and just not quite being able to pull it off. Which, I saw a video on YouTube where someone did an analysis that, like, our 4 main characters are all trying to escape something and have kind of settled into this bounty hunter routine, trying to distract themselves from the thing they really should be looking for. Faye with her past, Jet with his old friends and family, Spike with his dead Chinese guys, Ed with her family, and this whole series, they come across these poor people that are, been broken or have been, trying to change their station in life only to be caught in these hopeless situations. I think back to the first episode, the gangster and his girlfriend kind of Bonnie and Clyding out at the end. And the series ends as each of them finally go their separate ways, trying to make that change. Another big step is cool fight sequences with this incredibly kinetic style where, like, once Spike is going, he is, like, constantly moving and tumbling over things and, like, flipping around.
A lot of minimalism, and then just, like, boom, it's just awesome action sequences.
These quiet moments of contemplation that then explode into giant action sequences.
But also that you can have, space wars, Star Wars, maybe one might say, and then also like a badass, like, kung fu Western style fight on the streets.
Yeah.
You know, and the mixture of all that stuff just gives you a happy if you're a person who sort of digs like all those kinds of things mixed together really well. And then all of the like, we don't even talk about, you know, how this is the same company that did Gundam
And Macross.
So the mechanical designer Kimitashi Yamane, he worked on, you know, Mobile Suit Gundam series like the 8th MS team and stuff like that. Like, I mean, all of the spacecraft and everything just looks great. You know?
There was a holy shit moment I remember as a kid watching teenager, whatever, for the first time where the Bebop is a weird looking spaceship, and it never quite clicked to me until they finally land on a water planet and you realize it's a fishing vessel.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like it looks natural on the water. It's like it's a seaplane.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's so dumb.
So much attention to detail like that because you have like the Gundam people creating all of the aircraft and stuff. So it's just so like that is not just that's not just some spacecraft. It is like some legit ass designed spacecraft. And then also when you get to the city streets, it's legit ass designed and toned.
It's a lived in world.
Yeah, it feels incredibly lived in. A lot of it takes place on Mars, inspired heavily by New York and Hong Kong. But also, I really love the multiculturalism in the entire series as a whole. It is every culture. It's the whole idea that the Earth blew up. And that people are living on sort of different, like colonized.
An accident in the gateway technology that allows for interplanetary travel disrupted the Earth's axis and caused giant meteor showers to just fuck shit up constantly. So humanity basically abandoned Earth, and Mars became the kind of hoity-toity, urbane, place where like society kind of redeveloped, but there's still this kind of outworld, lawless frontier that's still very apparent.
And they made decisions about the different planets and about who inhabited the different planets in the solar system. And that's, I feel like, even though we don't even visit some of these other planets very much, those decisions were made, and that really shines through in terms of what you're saying with a lived-in world. And just the fact that it's just a melting pot, and they really go with that. As much as it's inspired by Western culture, really there's so much culture. It's like seeping with different cultures.
So you're telling me it's kind of like a Wild West meets Chinatown meets rich versus poor kind of. That sounds a lot like Firefly.
Yeah, never saw it.
You never saw Firefly?
I have not yet seen it. I'm sure we're gonna do an episode.
Well,
on
we
it.
already did the Cowboy Bebop episode, so we basically did it.
All right,
Joss Whedon, you fucking hack.
We're not doing.
You fucking bald-headed.
We're never doing a Firefly episode.
Slaying.
You jerks! I don't care who asked for it on the Facebook page. And what's that? What's the movie? Serendipity or something?
What?
Felicity? What's the movie they made at the end of the Firefly?
Oh, Serenity. Felicity.
We're not doing an episode on that movie either.
I mean, we might do an episode on Chiwetel Ejiofor, but other than that, no.
Okay, there you go.
But Firefly came out basically a year after Cowboy Bebop aired in America, and is very clearly inspired by it. In all the ways I just described. A lot. It's because it was such a formative. What's the right word? Vertex of coolness. A lot of young directors and creators have pointed to Cowboy Bebop as an inspiration for their visual.
The director of the film Brick,
Rian Johnson,
yeah,
who's doing the next Star Wars.
Oh yeah, he'll do great.
Yeah,
he'll be great for it.
a lived-in. Yes, I mean Star Wars.
Yeah.
Is a lived-in sci-fi universe with like. Yeah, it's so
Western,
good.
yeah, and stuff. So there was a film that did come out in 2001, Cowboy Bebop the movie. It was actually set between episodes 22 and 23 because, of course, the story ends with the 26th episode, which I love. And Watanabe always said that he wanted it to end. He wanted to be released from the show. He didn't want to, if the show were as successful as he thought it would be, he was the one person who was so confident it was going to be incredibly, incredibly popular. He needed it to end to be released from it so he wouldn't be trapped making Cowboy Bebop stuff for the rest of his life, which I thought was pretty cool. The other creators of the show were against it. He had to really sell them on the idea of his big kind of finale episode. So, of course, when they went back to make a movie later on, they set it up in between. It was in between episodes 2 and 3. It has strong Arabic thematic elements. He traveled to Morocco to do research. And I know I've seen it. Because I remember the art from it.
Yeah, it wasn't as... I liked it plenty. It kind of just put you back in that Cowboy Bebop headspace, but it definitely falls short of the incredibly high standard that the show kind of left you on.
When the show is just so perfect, like what do you do there?
I mean, it has the cool chase sequences. It has the Spike Spiegel fight scenes. It has that noir.
It does show a more vulnerable Spike, correct?
Yeah.
Like you get some more of his inner monologue. You get some more of his kind of emotional...
I'm sorry, we glossed over something that I really wanted to cover. The English dub is fucking
It's so
great.
good. It's so good. It launched a lot of those voice actors' careers.
Super producer Marcus Parks, I want you to look up the collected works of a man named Steve Bloom.
He voiced Spike. Spiegel,
He voiced
right?
Spike, and it was, according to interviews with him, his debut role as an honest-to-God like voice actor, not as just kind of a voice-over, gig-to-gig kind of guy. And he was incredibly nervous because Spike has, even though he's just a cool guy with a smooth voice that sometimes gets mad, it was a big deal for him. And the fact is, it was a breakout performance. Like, it is such an iconic voice.
He watched a lot of noir films to prepare for the role. He said it was the more vulnerable moments for Spike were definitely the most challenging moments for him. And yeah, it definitely blew the doors off of his career.
And the coolest thing I found out about Steve Bloom, besides the fact that he's voiced 1 million video game characters, like literally 1 million, and the voice of Wolverine in like half the cartoons that have ever been made, is on his arm, he has the sound form, the sound wave, like tattooed of just his final line as Spike. Bang. And you can see it like trail off on his arm. It's super
awesome.
rad.
He also played Lord Fef in Super Dimension Fortress Macross 2.
Yeah, I love Super Dimension Force Macross 2.
I mean, can you even imagine Super Dimension Force Macross 2 without Lord Fef?
Super Dimension Macross Force 2 is like undeniably one of the greatest Macross.
I mean, when you finished Super Defense Macross Force 1, you were like, how are they going to wrap this up?
And I was just like, I was like, what time is it? What time is it? And they were like, why do you keep doing that? I was like, that's my thing whenever I finish a Super Macross Force
And they followed Super Dimension Fortress Macross 1 with Super Dimension Fortress Macross 2, Lovers Again.
Lovers Again.
And
Because that was the weird part where the Macrosses start fucking and sucking on each other. That I could have done without.
In America,
anime.
it was the Robotex fucking and sucking.
It was like, okay, I get it. You got to be edgy, okay? I understand. You got to get those ratings. But, like, seriously, like, machine penis, no thank you.
He played Lord Fef and Major Nex.
Major Nex.
Holden, you are Major Nex.
Major Nex, come down to Wow Wow and get yourself some free milk. We are not only a television station, we also are a grocery store. Nothing scares me more than getting lost in this grocery store. Wow Wow.
Do the Wow Wow, which was a popular dance, by the way.
The team that put together Cowboy Bebop spun off and created a lot of new animation studios.
Let's talk about it. Bones
did good work.
Yeah, totally. Why did I say that condescendingly? I feel like everything I say is condescending. Bones. Yeah. So they spun off and created Bones. I mean, are you talking about Watanabe's work that he went on to do, or are you talking about other things?
There's a pedigree that like it kind of spans from Cowboy Bebop into all these little nooks and crannies in popular anime. Mm-hmm. But Watanabe's follow-up series was the equally popular in America.
Yeah.
Equally cool, equally musical, equally badass, violent, shaggy-haired protagonist.
Space Dandy.
I was going to say Samurai Champloo.
Oh, right. Space Dandy is the weird sci-fi comedy that came out recently. Samurai Champloo, Jake. Absolutely.
Sharp like the edge of a samurai sword, my metal blade cut through flesh and bone.
I need to see this show really badly, Jake.
It's very good. I mean,
Well, also, I really want to see Kids on the Slope really badly.
I never saw it.
It looks awesome. Kids on the Slope is like a very human, kind of down-to-earth thing. It's a kid in high school that meets this other kid. They start playing jazz music together. Yoko does the music. It's directed by Watanabe, and it just looks neat. And I definitely wanted to recommend it to others and check it out myself. But Samurai Champloo, let's talk about it.
I mean, that's a whole nother episode, but
Yeah.
it's that same arc of people brought together through unlikely circumstances, kind of navigating their way through kind of an adventurer's poverty. But instead of space, it's in feudal Japan. And there's an episode where there's a sword fight in the middle of a burning pot field, and it's fucking badass.
I definitely want to see it, especially knowing that it's very hip-hop influenced
Right.
samurai. I mean, again, just like let's mix it up. Let's take these different sounds, genres, and things and throw them together, and we're going to get something good, right?
Sounds like we got to watch a lot of anime now.
Yeah, it sounds like I am watching a lot of anime now. So I'm on, what am I? I'm almost done with season 1 of JoJo.
Oh, welcome aboard,
Yeah,
friend.
buddy. So that's the
Oh.
second, the first 2 JoJo stories, the first 2 different JoJos. I'm almost done with the second JoJo. Excited to get onto the third. I'm sure we're going to do an episode about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
We're going to do JoJo month.
Yeah, I think we will. I think we'll need to do like a multi-parter on JoJo. Trying to watch a lot of different things right now, but Kids on the Slope, I definitely want to check out once I'm done with, and Samurai Champloo once I'm done with Cowboy Bebop. But besides that, I did want to mention Space Dandy looks crazy. It's a science fiction comedy anime that he did. And besides that, there was supposed to be a little live-action Cowboy Bebop in the works.
Oh,
Yeah, dude. In 2008, it was reported that 20th Century Fox had a script. Watanabe-san was reportedly on board. The writer was Peter Craig, who wrote a little-known film called Top Gun 2.
it is. Yeah, it's very little
Very
known.
little known. I had no idea.
I had no idea it existed until you mentioned it.
The plans were to release the film in 2011. They signed on a better-known star named Keanu Reeves, but there was no director attached. So
Oh, fuck. Mm-hmm. You know, wait.
he was supposed to be Spike. Keanu was.
Of course. Fuck. Mm-hmm. Keanu Reeves already made a movie where he's Spike Spiegel, and it's called fucking John Wick.
Yeah.
A reformed gangster who's
Yep.
like cool and has a cute puppy that like doesn't want to be drawn into the gang violence, but then they fuck with him, and he has to like wreck their shit.
And you know what's hilarious too is Watanabe did a couple of short anime kind of
yeah.
cartoons for the Animatrix.
I watched that once and was like, that was cool, never again.
Yeah. So in a 2013 AMA, Keanu said, Cowboy Bebop does not look like it is going to happen with me in it. The script that was written was great and amazing, but it would cost like $500 million to make it. And while
I'm like 50.
yeah. And while I wished and hoped I would have done the project, we are working on trying to get Bill and Ted 3 off the ground. So there's a script, and we are trying to put it together. And Watanabe said about the production hell that it ended up getting into. I'm afraid I don't know what they're thinking in Hollywood. Apparently the project hasn't come to a stop, but I don't know how it's going to progress from here on. I hear that there are a lot of Hollywood, quote-unquote, problems. But either way, I don't know if they should make a live-action Cowboy Bebop. I think it's a perfect kind of concise thing to just go and appreciate. And there's so much there, and definitely check out the Seatbelts live in Tokyo playing all of the Cowboy Bebop soundtrack.
Definitely check out Cowboy Bebop. Like even
Yeah.
if you haven't watched it since Adult Swim,
Or
it's-
you don't like anime, just it's the only thing that might get you in.
It's yeah. I have to repeat, it was that fucking good.
Yep.
And it was humbling to kind of just watch this thing that meant so much to me half a lifetime ago and have it still have that impact.
Yep.
All
right. Any last words before we close this one out, Jake?
My girlfriend did not care for Faye's attire. It is kind of what I'd like to describe as a sex raincoat. And we were not unable to get to the part where she displays her like full character arc. So it was just Like, no. Okay, ignore the fact that she's in a sex raincoat and she's handcuffed.
It's like what you have to do always in getting
Watching anime with your girlfriend.
Lexi did enjoy it, but we were hammered and she fell asleep like halfway through. So, but she did enjoy it, even though she doesn't remember enjoying it, which freaked her out because she was like, "Wow, we watched that show." So there you go. But I will say that she was actually like trying to stay awake because she was like, "This is really fucking cool."
There's a lot of porno videos featuring raincoats.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Does it have its own section? That's what I want to know.
Well, I mean, there's a whole section on grannyfox.me called Rubber Raincoat.
Yeesh.
I'm into a lot of galoshes play. Do you have anything?
Well, thank you so much for listening to this. My name is Holden McNeely. This is Wizard and the Bruiser. Please rate and review us on iTunes.
Gonna double that down. If you're listening right now, if you've liked what we've done, it helps. It is the way to help us, and we will definitely be appreciative as we nervously check the iTunes charts on our phones.
And you can catch me on Holdenators Ho on Twitch, especially every Monday night. I do a stream with my girlfriend called Lexi Loves Game Night.
And you can find me on Twitter at BestJakeYoung. And low-key, just between you and me, guys, I think we're going to start doing streams on Dorkly. So tune in for Thursday Mario mods with Jake.
Awesome. One last thing, too.
Please don't insult my face.
The Cowman was mentioned on this episode. So go to Spotify. Check out the Cowman. Marcus Parks, super producer, plays drums. I play a little guitar and sing. And, yeah, go check us out.
Have we never mentioned it?
Your
band's fucking amazing.
You know,
it is the best spooky country album I've ever bought in my entire life.
Yeah, and you can buy our album on Bandcamp. Actually, that's probably the place I should send people.
It's still Spotify's.
Yeah, we get paid there too. I think a little, like 2 pennies for every 100 listen. Well, anyways, thank you so much for listening, everybody. Take care.
For more shows like the one you just listened to, go to cavecomedyradio.com.